The woman stands before a mirror, wrapping strips of cloth tightly around her chest. A ritual she forces herself to repeat every single day. Because she is a decorated general, forged by years of warfare on the front lines. Yet no one has ever realized that the Empire's famed commander is actually a woman. And lately rumors about her have been spreading like wildfire, claiming her true face is hideous, that she's a lust-crazed monster, even whispering she has forbidden inclinations, leaving countless noble ladies heartbroken, swallowing their tears and putting on brave smiles. And behind all those vicious smears stands none other than the Empire's notorious prince of the Northern Guard of Zhao Song Huanbei, shattering the carefully built image Yunshu had fought so hard to maintain. Yet what the world doesn't know is that the so-called lecherous, never-married General Yunshu is in truth a stunningly beautiful woman. Fate has a sense of irony. During one campaign, the Northern Prince fell into Yunshu's hands as a captive. Since Yunshu took command, he has plotted endlessly, making her suffer more than once. And with the rumors added to the pile, her anger finally boils over. She decides to interrogate Song Huanbei in person, determined to make her old enemy pay for every scheme. Inside the prison cell, Yunshu holds a chunk of iron heated red-hot in her hand, a crooked smile on her face as she grips the Northern Prince's chin and mocks him without restraint. Song Huanbei slowly lifts his head, murderous intent blazing in his eyes. "Yunshu, you despicable wretch, how dare you set me up like this?" Yunshu's eyes widen when she finally sees his face clearly. She had calculated everything, except that the Prince of the North would possess such breathtaking looks, almost unfairly captivating. Staring at that face, she finds her hand hesitating, and worse, a dangerously inappropriate thought flickers through her mind. Yunshu lifts Song Huanbei's chin, then suddenly changes her approach. "A prince of your standing shouldn't be treated like this," she says, only for Song Huanbei to violently twist his head and shout, "Get lost." The sudden movement sending his head crashing into the wall, knocking him unconscious on the spot. It turns out that before Yunshu ever arrived, Song Huanbei had already endured a brutal interrogation. Yunshu lowers her voice and demands of her subordinate Qian Yan why was such excessive force used. Then, regaining her composure, she orders Qian Yan to take Song Huanbei away and see that he receives proper treatment. After checking Song Huanbei's pulse, the physician sighs. This young man's meridians are practically shattered, and he's suffered a head injury as well. He'll need time to recover. I can't imagine who would be cruel enough to do this. Qian Yan, ever the blunt one, replies earnestly, "It was all done according to the general's orders. Don't worry, he won't die, but he's lost half his strength. Once he recovers, we can continue the questioning." Truly, the general planned everything perfectly. Yunshu immediately tries to save face. "How could I be that cruel? I never mistreat prisoners of war." Qian Yan adds that the capture of the Northern Prince has been kept secret, cutting off any chance of Zhao seeking peace talks. Hearing this, Yunshu can't help but grin. From now on, there is no Northern Prince, only a favored man in the general's residence. The gossip-loving physician freezes, then packs up overnight and flees as fast as possible. Yunshu looks at Song Huanbei lying unconscious on the bed and murmurs, "You called me perverse, then I'll show you exactly what that means. I can't wait to see the look on your face when you wake up, Prince." A woman disguised as a man, a victorious general who captures her sworn enemy, a strikingly handsome prince. People say a warrior may be killed but never humiliated, yet she drags the fallen prince into her private quarters, shaming the borderlands. Meanwhile, outside the former Zhao city lord's residence, Yunshu stands solemnly, speaking quietly with a palace eunuch. "The emperor has heard of General Yunshu's great victory and has sent me with rewards to offer his consolation. His Majesty also hopes the general will soon return in triumph." Behind the eunuch stands a perfectly arranged group of handsome men and beautiful women. Smiling broadly, he says, "These are tokens of the noble consort's personal consideration for the general." Yunshu forces herself to stay calm, insisting she has no interest in any of this. But the moment the words leave her mouth, someone blurts out behind her, "General, the favorite you knocked out has woken up," a line that makes it impossible for Yunshu to clear her name. Seeing everyone struggling not to laugh, she hurriedly waves her hands. "I'm not that kind of person." Putting on a stern, handsome facade, she steps into the room and looks at Song Huanbei's unfairly good-looking face, her heart betraying her by pounding wildly. To her surprise, Song Huanbei has completely lost his memory. Yunshu's thoughts stir after finally catching this infuriating man. How could she not toy with him a little? "Do you remember who I am? My benefactor." Thank you for saving my Li. Before he can finish, Yunshu plants a foot by the bed, leans down and grips his chin. I'm your enemy that you're supposed to hate me, fear me, despise me. Yet you still have to please me. Beg me humbly to spare your life, or else I'll kill you. At that moment, the young page Xiao Yuan can't take it anymore and snaps, how dare you humiliate the prince like this? Yunshu turns to him with a wicked grin and the boy starts trembling, lets out a yelp and bolts for the door. But Yunshu stops him at once and gestures for him to be taken away. Qian Yen understands immediately and escorts the page out of the room without delay. Just then Song Huanbei speaks up. He's only a child. If you have a problem, take it out on me. Yunshu withdraws her hand and sneers. Fine. Right now then. Whether you're faking amnesia or not, this chance won't come twice. Song Huanbei clenches his teeth and nods. Yunshu studies him closely, resting a hand on his shoulder. When he doesn't resist, her suspicion only deepens. She pushes him back onto the bed. And still he doesn't struggle. Her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Then I'll keep going. Her hand hovering close, never touching as she notices his body tense. Yunshu scoffs. Keep pretending. Let's see how long you can keep this up. At that moment, Song Huanbei is gripping a dagger tightly in his hand, their faces drawing closer and closer. Just a breath away from contact. When Qian Yen breaks the tension with ill-timed news envoys from Zhao have arrived outside. Yunshu shows a flicker of reluctance and murmurs to Song Huanbei beneath her, what a nuisance. Even as she rises, her hand lingers briefly against his cheek. I'll let you off this time. As Yunshu turns to leave, Song Huanbei finally slips the dagger back out of sight. Outside the room, Yunshu exhales softly thankfully. Qian Yen interrupted in time. Under such humiliation, Song Huanbei hadn't resisted at all. She nearly lost her first kiss. She'll need another approach. There's no way he can keep pretending forever. Unexpectedly, the Zhao envoy greets her with lavish praise, congratulating the general on a decisive victory that eliminated his lord's greatest threat. The envoy, Song Huanbei, cuts straight to the point and presents a chest of gold and silver, urging General Yunshu to ensure the northern prince is executed on sight, never to return to Zhao. Yunshu listens, then replies coldly, take your bribe back, don't tarnish my name. With that, she turns and walks into the residence. So the northern prince is this unwanted back in Zhao. No wonder someone was willing to sell him out and hand over information. Yunshu thinks this could be the perfect way to test him. She immediately slips into full actress mode. How pitiful the northern prince is, she sighs. He's given everything to his country, earned victory after victory, and yet there are people back home praying for his death. Qian Yen trails behind, utterly confused but nodding along. Yeah, that's brutal. Yunshu then tells Song Huanbei plainly that they will depart for Shi Kingdom at dawn the next day. Her hand lifts again, a lazy threat in her voice. Before we leave, should I just kill you, prince? She says it lightly, but in truth she has no intention of doing so, turning instead to order Qian Yen to tighten the guards. The northern prince's expression darkens. He says nothing, only clenches his fist. His mind replaying the day he was captured. Drugged from the shadows, his martial arts stripped away in an instant. He had believed it was all Yunshu's scheme. But now it's clear Zhao had its own hand in the plot. So who exactly betrayed him? Just as he's lost in thought, a sharp whoosh sounds and a dart embeds itself in the wall. Song Huanbei steps forward and removes the note tied to it. His eyes scan the message. A faint smile curls at the corner of his lips. Yunshu's face flashes through his mind as he thinks, you really believe you can keep me here? After reading the rescue plan on the note, Song Huanbei burns it at once, determined to leave no trace. Then a voice sounds behind him. I saw that, sneaking around in the middle of the night, burning letters. Yunshu has been leaning by the window all along, watching everything unfold. She exposes Song Huanbei's fake amnesia without mercy, an instant brutal reveal. Resting her chin in her hands, Yunshu looks thoroughly pleased. Song Huanbei presses his lips together, visibly flustered, and offers a weak explanation. The note appeared out of nowhere. I panicked, and I was afraid you'd misunderstand, so I burned it. Knowing full well how unconvincing that sounds, he widens his eyes, moisture gathering as he looks at Yunshu, hoping to slip past her suspicion. Yunshu grabs his sleeve in one swift motion, and says coldly, you're not escaping my grasp, you'd better behave. In truth, Yunshu had already known what the note said. She simply chose to look the other way. Back in his room, Song Huanbei leaves a subtle mark on a pillar. signaling that the rescue plan is cancelled. Late the following night, wrapped in a tattered blanket, Song Hwanbei shivers from the cold. Recalling Yun Shu's smug expression, fury surges within him. Song Hwanbei has never suffered such humiliation. A faint rustling comes from outside the room. Song Hwanbei's eyes sharpen. So it's finally happening. A man dressed in black slips inside and whispers, "My lord, I'm here to rescue you." He flips back the blanket only to find the bed empty. In the next instant, Song Hwanbei steps out of the shadows, his sword pressed to the man's throat. The rescue had already been cancelled with a coded signal only allies could read. This intruder is clearly a spy. Exposed, the man lunges with his blade and shouts, "If you're so eager to die, I'll grant your wish." Song Hwanbei fights back with everything he has, but with only 30% of his strength restored, he's quickly pushed back. Just as defeat looms, a massive sword tears through the tent. It's Yun Shu's signature weapon. Yun Shu steps in front of Song Hwanbei and finishes the attacker in seconds, declaring coldly, "Whose mine is decided by me. Without my permission, even touching one of my dogs means paying with your life." Song Hwanbei winces. He definitely feels that jab. Yun Shu plants her foot on the man's back and demands, "Who sent you?" To her surprise, the spy bites down hard on his tongue, killing himself on the spot. Yun Shu had spent half the day preparing, only to realize it had all come to nothing. Song Hwanbei pretends to be injured and weak, sinking down deliberately. After being exposed the night before, he decided to turn the tables and use Yun Shu's hand to eliminate the spies. This round seems to favor Song Hwanbei. Seeing his wounds, Yun Shu feels a flicker of guilt. She'd assumed it was a rescue, never imagining it was an attempt to silence him. Yun Shu crouches down and lifts his chin again, studying him with a teasing smile. "Look at you, so pitiful. Freeze to death, get murdered, or stay by my side. Looks like being with me is the safest option." She throws him a playful, loaded look. "Why don't you sleep with me tonight?" Song Hwanbei rejects her flatly, saying he has no interest in men. At this point, he still doesn't know the general is a woman in disguise. Yun Shu just laughs it off. "Doesn't matter. I'm interested. And you're a captive, you don't get to refuse." This time Song Hwanbei hardens, his gaze turning sharp as he threatens quietly, "Then it'll be either you die or I do." Yun Shu finds it amusing, so he's done pretending now, using her and tossing her aside. Her smile turns dangerous. "Song Hwanbei, your character doesn't live up to that face. Careful, talk like that and you'll regret it." Suddenly remembering he's supposed to be amnesiac, Song Hwanbei quickly slumps, clutching his chest and coughing non-stop. Watching Song Hwanbei's clumsy performance, Yun Shu can't help but smile, almost amused. What she truly wants are leads on the Thousand Mechanism Pavilion and the fish map. His ties with Zhao's factions are far more tangled than expected. She rises, takes up her weapon and casually orders the servants to bandage him. "Just don't let him die." Then declares that from now on, Song Hwanbei is nothing more than an ordinary servant of the general's residence, sleeping in the servants' quarters, eating coarse food, mucking the stables. "Let's see how long you can hold out before you bow your head." Song Hwanbei lowers his gaze, fury simmering beneath. He swears silently that today's humiliation will be repaid 100-fold. Yet Zhao has people who want him dead as well. Going back isn't safe either. So he endures for now, gathering intelligence. Both sides are plotting their own games. Yun Shu leads the army home in triumph. The capital floods with onlookers, cheering like fans at an airport pickup. Astride her horse, Yun Shu maintains her professional, practiced smile. Scanning the sea of faces oddly, not a single handsome one in sight. Then a few flamboyantly dressed men appear, preening like peacocks, admirers hoping to throw themselves at the general. Yun Shu panics and quickly has them driven away. She sighs, resigned to the fact that her reputation may never be fully cleared. But perhaps that's for the best. A commander who's too perfect only draws the emperor's suspicion. From inside the carriage, Song Hwanbei watches with open disdain. She kingdom in his eyes is full of vulgar excess, while Yun Shu's general's residence stands grand and serene, filled with birdsong and flowers. The joy belongs to others, not to Song Hwanbei, a mere servant. All he's given is a run-down little courtyard. After more than half a month of recovery, his injuries are healing painfully slowly. He curses inwardly, convinced that the ruthless general deliberately withheld 2 key medicinal ingredients to keep his strength from returning. Worse still, in the southern quarters of the general's residence, he's subjected daily to mockery and petty harassment from the other servants. Song Hwanbei drains the bowl of bitter medicine in one gulp. thinking coldly it's nothing more than a fallen tiger being bullied by dogs. A northern prince would never wait for death. While cleaning the grounds each day, he secretly memorizes the layout and discovers that the residence maintains its own dispensary. That night, Song Hwanbei slips into the pharmacy to search for the 2 missing herbs, only to find the cabinet for the vital nourishing pills completely empty. His bad luck continues. He makes a noise and is nearly discovered. In the blink of an eye, Song Hwanbei vaults out the window and vanishes. Under the moonlight, a beautiful woman stands nearby, admiring a peach blossom in her hand. Song Hwanbei comes up behind her and covers her mouth, whispering for her to stay quiet. During his escape, he runs straight into Yun Shu dressed in women's clothes. Covering her mouth, Song Hwanbei murmurs at her ear that he means her no harm. Yun Shu almost reacts on instinct, ready to subdue the insolent intruder. But curiosity wins out. She wants to see what Song Hwanbei is really up to. The pursuers are already searching nearby. Worried he'll be caught too quickly, Yun Shu grabs his hand and pulls him into a hidden, safer spot. Song Hwanbei regains his composure and says politely, "My apologies, miss, that I meant no offense just now." Their eyes meet as they take in each other's features, hearts beating faster than they should. The sudden, awkward intimacy makes them both look away. Song Hwanbei clears his throat, struck by a strange sense of familiarity about her. Yun Shu reminds herself to stay calm. She's a no-nonsense general, after all. Yet her voice softens as she asks gently, "Who are you, sir, and why are you in the general's residence so late at night?" Song Hwanbei explains that he's a newly arrived servant who was shorted on medicine after being injured, leaving his recovery stalled. And that's why he risked sneaking in to steal the herbs. Yun Wanshu bristles with anger. Someone dared to pull strings behind her back. My brother has never mistreated the people in this household. I'll make sure he looks into this. Then she asks his name with an innocent expression. Song Hwanbei answers. Song Hwanbei, thinking to himself, so this is the bully Yun Shu's younger sister. Just then, a maid rushes over, urging the young lady to return inside. The wind outside is strong. She might catch a chill. Yun Shu reluctantly says goodbye to Song Hwanbei. Turning away, she promises to tell her brother about the medicine. A sly smile creeps onto Song Hwanbei's lips. She's easy to fool. Maybe she could be a breakthrough. If Yun Wanshu were to fall for him, she might even turn against Yun Shu. Yun Shu sneaks a glance back at Song Hwanbei as he leaves. She senses he may be drawn to her feminine disguise and plans to use that identity to lower his guard and extract information. The once feared northern prince is, in her eyes, nothing more than a pawn. Still, she needs to find out who dared meddle with what she considers hers. Both depart with schemes of their own. The next evening, Xiao Yuan, the book boy, beams at the medicine laid out on the table. The prince finally has his meds. Suddenly, a sharp cry from Xiao Bai erupts outside. Yuan rushes out in alarm, only to see a man in green stride in. Tossing the medicine straight into the brazier, it's Zimo, one of the general's favored companions. Zimo has noticed it all. On the surface, Song Hwanbei has fallen from grace, yet throughout the residence, Yun Shu treats him unlike anyone else. As Yun Shu's power continues to rise, the consort grows increasingly uneasy about losing control. Xiao littles herself that only by winning Yun Shu's favor can she better spy on her for the consort. "What are you doing here?" The sudden voice from behind sends Xiao Lu into a panic. In the blink of an eye, Qian Yen hurls her down before the hall. His expression righteous as he reports, "She's the one who tampered with Song Hwanbei's medicine. Otherwise his injuries would have healed long ago and the general would have gotten what she wanted." Yun Shu surveys the scene impassively, a headache forming. She quietly orders Qian Yen to investigate the whole affair. This spectacle is getting out of hand, and it's ruining her carefully crafted villain image. Sensing danger, Song Hwanbei slips into full actor mode, coughing weakly as he defends her. "The general is magnanimous. She'd never withhold my life-saving medicine. I'm a captive who should have died, yet she spared me." The flattery lands like a barrage, but Yun Shu hears the irony beneath it. Just then, Xiao Lu straightens up and shouts, "I serve the consort. General, please spare me for her sake." Yun Shu's eyes widen in disbelief. Then she forces herself calm. "It's nothing serious. In fact, Xiao Lu's actions suit me just fine." Song Hwanbei stiffens. He'd thought the general would at least stand for what's right. Yun Shu slams the table and rises, her tone icy. "Know your place. You're a captive. What right do you have to compare yourself to someone backed by the consort?" Xiao Lu beams and echoes, "The general is wise." Leaning close to Song Hwanbei, Yun Shu murmurs coldly, "All you need to do is be a proper favorite. Submit to me." Yun Shu lifts Song Huanbei's chin with her hand, her tone cool. Kneel and beg me, maybe I'll show mercy and give you the medicine. Song Huanbei, ever more seasoned, puts on a shy smile instead. A caged canary only needs to look pretty. What use is martial skill? Yun Shu sighs and waves everyone away. Xiao Ru leaves wearing a smug grin, throwing one last mocking glance at Song Huanbei. Yun Shu's expression darkens. The consort's reach keeps expanding, she thinks. Looks like I'll have to pay a visit to the palace. Inside the Shi Kingdom's palace, Yun Wanshu bows to the consort. This true self of hers has claimed illness for months and hasn't appeared in public for over half a year. After a few polite exchanges, the consort Yun Yi addresses Yun Shu as a sister. 14 years ago, when Yun Shu was only 5 and wandering the streets, it was Yun Yi who took her in and pleaded with her father to keep and raise her. As Yun Shu rose steadily through the ranks, Yun Yi likewise ascended from an overlooked concubine to the honored consort. Their bond thus became delicate, prosper together, fall together. Recently, cracks have appeared. The consort asks whether Yun Shu has made up her mind about the proposal discussed last time. Too many eyes are on you now. One mistake and everything collapses. Your identity alone is already risky. Refusing marriage for so long, it's a glaring weakness. Besides, you don't even dare to marry. Yun Shu's eyes widen slightly. She exhales with resignation. There will be a way. Yun Shu doesn't want to wear the mask of a grand general forever. Yun Wanshu is who she truly is. She looks straight at the consort. There's no need to place watchers in the general's residence anymore. You can trust me, I'm no ingrate. The consort's expression hardens, turning subtly strained. The consort smiles and says, Little Wanshu, you're joking. Your residence already has plenty of people placed there by His Majesty. What's wrong with me keeping an eye on them for you? Yun Shu replies with a hard expression. And if I lose control and kill one, wouldn't that betray your good intentions? The consort leans in, her voice low. Kill them, then. Anyone foolish enough to get caught deserves a clean death. She reaches out and grips Yun Shu's hand. Listen to me. Let Yun Wanshu disappear completely. Once my Lanner takes the throne, you can do whatever you wish. For now, you'll just have to endure a little. Yun Shu jerks her hand free. Anger barely contained. I'll think about it, she says, turning away. Watching her leave, the consort's expression darkens. Yun Shu is slipping further and further out of control. If it comes to that, she'll have to erase Yun Wanshu entirely. To the world, Yun Shu is a young, powerful general at the height of her influence. Yet behind that image lies a tragic past few know. 16 years ago, Yun Yi spotted a pitiful, ragged Wanshu on the street. To craft a reputation for kindness. She ordered her servants to bring the child back to the household. But the servants treated her coldly, and the young masters bullied her relentlessly. Still, at least she had shelter and food. Until one day, little Wanshu walked along happily, bowl in hand, military text tucked under her arm, when a stone suddenly flew through the air and knocked the bowl from her grasp. The young masters of the household gang up again to tease Wanshu. After a round of mockery, she finally snaps, grabbing a stone from the ground and hurling it back without hesitation. By evening, Wanshu is kneeling outside awaiting punishment. Turns out little Wanshu was ruthless enough to break the legs of 3 boys. Everyone expects her to be thrown out, but Yun Yi takes a keen interest instead, recognizing a natural martial talent who can even recite military texts on the spot. Convinced Wanshu's origins are extraordinary and her future promising, Yun Yi urges her father to adopt and train her. And so Wanshu is formally adopted, becoming a young lady of the Yun household. Later, she disguises herself as a man and joins the army, living with 2 identities, troublesome at times, but strangely satisfying. After returning from the palace, Yun Shu's thoughts are already back at the residence. Fixed on Song Huanbei. Yesterday the general was all cold authority. Today the young lady comes bearing warmth. Song Huanbei, she muses, just surrender to me already. While sweeping fallen leaves, Song Huanbei looks up and spots Yun Wanshu. He greets her with unmistakable enthusiasm. Pleased that his plan worked after all the careful maneuvering, their chance encounter finally happens. The actor and actress take their seats in the courtyard, slipping smoothly into date mode, snacking on pastries while trading casual conversation and subtle probes. Yun Wanshu hands over the medicine she prepared for Song Huanbei's injuries. He hadn't expected her to care this much and cautiously asks whether there's any way to obtain the vital nourishing pills. Unfazed, Yun Wanshu delivers her rehearsed line with a sigh. That medicine doesn't exist anywhere in the capital. Even my brother won't give it to me. That I never imagined he'd treat you so harshly. She thinks this might draw out his true thoughts. But he proves slippery, responding without revealing a thing. She pivots, testing the waters with a half-joking tone. If my brother ordered you to serve his bed, would you? Before she can finish, Song Hwanbei rises and reaches toward her face. Yun Wanshu freezes, eyes wide, instinctively grabbing his hand. This bold already. Is he actually making a move? Only then does she realize he's plucking a fallen leaf from her hair. The gesture still sends her heart racing. She murmurs a shy thank you. Their eyes lock, the air thick with tension. Song Hwanbei smiles. Miss, how much longer do you plan on holding my hand? Both secretly wondering if the other has taken the bait. It's not the handsome men you fear, but the handsome ones who know how to flirt. Yun Shu releases him and apologizes, cheeks burning. Seeing her flustered expression, Song Hwanbei can't help but grin from ear to ear. Song Hwanbei casually picks up a piece of pastry and brings it to his lips, remarking with clear intent, exquisite and delicious. Yun Wanshu's eyes widen as her face flushes crimson, nearly enough to make her nose bleed. He leans in even closer, deliberately emphasizing his words. The pastry is truly excellent. Thank you, Miss Yun. Yun Wanshu forces a smile and replies that she's glad he likes it, silently thinking he's obviously using suggestive phrasing on purpose. Suddenly, a rustling sound comes from the bushes. Yun Wanshu tenses. Could it be another attempt on Song Hwanbei's life? A black-clad figure bursts out, charging straight at Yun Wanshu. Afraid to expose her identity by fighting in public, she hesitates, watching the assassin close in. In a split second, Song Hwanbei lunges forward on instinct, pulling Yun Wanshu into his arms as a blade slices across his back. He spins around, grabs the pastry box and engages the attacker head-on. Yun Shu is currently Yun Wanshu. There's no reason for them to target her. Frozen in place, she rapidly analyzes who the assassin was really after. Hearing the commotion, Qian Yan arrives from nearby. Sensing the situation turning unfavorable, the assassin retreats and vanishes. Yun Wanshu supports the wounded Song Hwanbei, anxiously promising to fetch a physician at once. Sensing an opportunity, he decides to act the part and deepen her trust. I'm fine. As long as you're unharmed. I've dragged you into this. There have always been people trying to kill me, but I can't remember anything. The more Yun Wanshu thinks about it, the stranger it feels. She can't figure out who would order such an attack. As the assassin flees, the mask comes off, revealing none other than Xiao Lu. He never expected Song Hwanbei to still possess martial skills, and he was equally baffled as to why the consort ordered the assassination of Miss Yun. The consort's command was explicit. Success or failure didn't matter, as long as Yun Wanshu was injured. That night, Yun Shu sits in her room with a grim expression. After the incident, she immediately sealed off the general's residence. The culprit must still be hiding inside. At that moment, Qian Yan brings Song Hwanbei into the room. Yun Shu first checks on Song Hwanbei's injuries, then states that she is fair with both rewards and punishments from now on. He won't have to do any dirty or exhausting work. Qian Yan quietly withdraws and waits outside. Yun Shu turns back to Song Hwanbei, saying she has one more special reward for him. Before she can finish, an unfamiliar fragrance spreads through the room. Irritated, Song Hwanbei steps closer and asks in a low voice, "So this is your special reward?" Yun Shu looks at him, completely confused. It turns out Qian Yan secretly prepared a surprise aromatherapy for her. Ever loyal, Qian Yan guards the door and orders the servants to keep their distance. He truly is a dedicated subordinate. The effect of the incense needs no explanation. What Qian Yan didn't realize is that for women, it tends to make their bodies feel weak and light. Inside the room, the two unconsciously drift closer, the atmosphere thickening into something dangerously intimate. Yun Shu senses danger immediately. This could spiral out of control. Both the general and the prince have been affected by the provocative incense. Song Hwanbei feels heat rushing through his body and snaps, calling Yun Shu despicable. Yun Shu forces herself to stay composed. "What, you dissatisfied?" she retorts. Her limbs are already growing weak, panic churning inside. She turns and heads for the door, still putting on a front. "That self-righteous act of yours kills my appetite," she scoffs. She pushes hard, only to realize the door won't budge. It's locked tight. Qian Yan really is reliable. When he locks a door, he truly locks it. In the next instant, a hand brushes past Yun Shu's cheek. Song Hwanbei slips behind her in a flash and murmurs, "Why are you panicking?" Yun Shu raises her hand to push him away, insisting, "Do I look panicked?" while screaming inwardly, hasn't he sobered up? Doesn't he despise this kind of thing? But she fails to push him back. To avoid the awkwardness, she quickly withdraws her hand and says coolly, I don't like people who are too forward. Song Hwanbei takes the initiative, gripping her hand and pulling her close. Leaning toward her ear, he whispers, I just want to comfort the general. Just this once? Yun Shu counters at once, smiling that if that's your request, then I suppose I'll reluctantly accept. She suddenly pins Song Hwanbei back against the wall. Before he can react, she strikes him. His consciousness fades and his eyes slowly close. Yun Shu catches the unconscious Song Hwanbei. Completely thrown off by what just happened, her thoughts erupt like a volcano, shame crashing in waves. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but holding him only makes it harder. In the end, she dumps the fool aside. The next day, Song Hwanbei slowly opens his eyes, finding himself disheveled on the bed. He sits up, rubbing the dull ache at the back of his head, only to notice a necklace around his neck, touching it in confusion. Suddenly someone parts the curtains and warns him in a low voice, I know the general favored you. Behave yourself from now on, understood? Song Hwanbei lowers his head in silence, cursing the despicable people of Shi Kingdom in his heart. Elsewhere, Yun Shu worries it over. The incense muddles the mind. Song Hwanbei likely remembers nothing from last night. He must think he lost his virtue. Seeing his shaken silhouette, Yun Shu can't help but laugh. Brilliant move. Song Hwanbei truly can't recall the details, though his body bears suggestive traces. Still, his physical sense doesn't lie. He's certain he wasn't violated. A faint smile appears as his curiosity about Yun Shu's hidden secrets only grows. 16 years ago, a young Song Hwanbei slipped out on a trip with his junior sister, only to encounter long lines of refugees from Shi Kingdom along the road. Moved by pity, the two shared the rations they carried. But there were far too many people and their supplies were limited. As the food ran out, the refugees' gazes grew increasingly hungry. Before they surged forward, surrounding the pair and stripping them of everything. When the chaos settled, only a wrecked carriage remained and the junior sister was gone. Song searched everywhere in vain. Enraged, he clenched his fists and swore to one day crush Shi Kingdom and punish those he deemed vile. Now he can no longer recall her face. The only memory that lingers is a peach blossom birthmark on her calf. Back in the present, Yun Shu is studying military texts when a maid reports that the 9th prince has arrived. Panicking, she tells the maid to say she's out and promptly vaults out the window, only to find Shenlong, the 9th prince, already waiting outside. I knew you'd try the window, he says, making the moment painfully awkward. Yun Shu steels herself. Loner, what brings you here? Shenlong replies softly, because you broke my heart last time. Yun Shu avoids him precisely because she turned him down before and doesn't know how to face him now. She grabs his ear and scolds him. Loner, you're getting far too familiar. Call me uncle. The 9th prince rubs his reddened ear, cheeks flushed as he complains, we're not blood related and I'm only 5 or 6 years younger. Stop treating me like a child. The two sit down in the courtyard, chatting idly. He sips his tea, eyes lingering on Yun Shu, then notices the mark on her neck, and sighs. Going this far just to keep father from growing suspicious. You've really been wronged. Little does he know the mark is nothing more than a mosquito bite. Yun Shu scratches absently and shrugs. I'm used to being around men. It's nothing. The prince slams the table. But it matters to me. That's why I suggested Wanshu marry me. If you married me, you'd be free, no more playing the general. Yun Shu only smiles. Let go of that idea. You're my uncle. It's precisely because the consort understands his feelings that she wants Yun Wanshu erased. Rejected once again, the prince's expression darkens. He leaves with a promise that I'll earn father's approval and free you from these chains. To Yun Shu, he's always been a sensible junior. Unbeknownst to her, the departing prince is bumped by a maid, spilling tea over the fan Yun Shu gifted him. He offers a gentle smile. It's fine. Then turns and orders his men to quietly investigate Song Hwanbei and to deal with the maid, ensuring Yun Shu never finds out. At that moment, a group of handsome men tour Song Hwanbei's new quarters. Among them is Lu Su, the northern prince's covert operative embedded in Shi Kingdom. Their expressions reveal a mix of envy and unspoken desire. The general's favored companions flock over, eager to learn how to win her attention, asking how his skin stays so smooth and pale and whether he knows any secrets that keep the general hooked. Song Hwanbei remains indifferent, offering no response, and simply instructs Xiao Yuan to see them out. Turned away, the group fumes. What's so special about him? Once the ninth prince steps in, he's finished, it's happened before. Catching the scent of intrigue, Lu Su quickly pulls someone aside to ask in a hushed voice. After piecing things together, Lu Su reports back to Song Huanbei. Song studies the notes apparently. Whenever someone gains favor in the general's residence, the ninth prince intervenes soon after. He finds the uncle-nephew dynamic strange. The ninth prince seems far too involved. Sharp as ever, Song concludes that Yun Shu isn't inclined that way at all. The prince's actions look more like deliberate cover. Then a realization strikes. Yun Shu's power already alarms the emperor, that if proof emerges that she's not what she claims, and that this single flaw was staged to deceive the throne, suspicion of deeper ambitions would follow. Mid-thought, Song Huanbei suddenly pivots and questions Lu Su, the covert chief, about how he slipped into the South Court. Lu Su sighs, awkwardly explaining that while the general's residence is tightly guarded, the South Court's crowds make it easier to blend in. Song remarks coolly that Lu Su's looks aren't a problem, what troubles him is his own. Plucking a leaf, Lu Su asks quietly when the prince plans to return to Zhao. Song walks to the incense burner and burns the letter. The mastermind behind the attempt on my life hasn't been found, and Zhao's ungrateful lot need to learn what happens without me. With that, he turns and leaves. That day, Yun Shu and Song Huanbei sip tea side by side, watching a polo match at leisure. Since the assassin never resurfaced after the last attempt, Yun Shu deliberately sets the stage, a sly grin on her lips. Don't waste my goodwill. Beside her, Song Huanbei watches Yun Shu with equal calculation. Yun Shu suddenly turns, teasing, "You've been awfully attentive these days. Enjoy a taste of it last time?" She boasts with a laugh. The general's charms few can resist. Song Huanbei can only stare, speechless. Yet the veteran actor's hand has already settled lightly over Yun Shu's. He says calmly, "When in Rome, do as the Romans do. I've lost my memories, and the general treats me well. Why cling to the past?" Yun Shu pulls her hand back with a scowl, thinking he must play both sides, then quickly changes the subject. "The gold chain I gave you, why aren't you wearing it?" Song Huanbei notices how smooth Yun Shu's hands are, hardly what you'd expect from a general hardened by years of battle. He suddenly leans in and murmurs by her ear, "I've been wearing it for days now, just waiting for the general to summon me again and grant a new style." The unexpected intimacy startles Yun Shu. She quickly lifts her teacup to hide it. Had the once proud northern prince really turned this clingy? Did that night flip some hidden switch? Ever the seasoned actor, Song lets a satisfied smile slip and casually asks, "Why isn't the general joining the polo match?" Yun Shu replies offhandedly, "If I took the field, what chance would anyone else have?" Suddenly, Song spots Yun Wanshu entering the grounds, selecting a horse as if she intends to ride herself. His pupils contract. Something feels very wrong, because he remembers all too well. After learning about the polo event, he had tampered with that very horse. Yun Shu watches the Yun Wanshu beyond the curtain, thinking the bait is set. Now we wait. Yun Shu speaks lightly, feigning concern. "That girl Wanshu sneaked out to ride. Her health's always been poor. Last time, you were the one who saved her." Song, eyes fixed on the rider, replies distractedly, "Miss Yun looks fragile. Riding is far too dangerous." Catching the shift in his demeanor, Yun Shu's gaze sharpens. "You seem awfully tense. I noticed you staring at that horse for quite a while. Does something seem off about it?" Sweat beads on Song Huanbei's brow as he forces calm. "You're overthinking it, General. I was just worried about the young lady." Yun Shu's lips curl slowly, her expression turning suggestive. "You certainly seem attentive to Wanshu." Suddenly, a servant shouts, "Miss, watch out." The horse bolts wildly out of control. Yun Shu rises at once to look. Song clenches his fists, reminding himself to stay composed. It's none of his business. Yun Wanshu's fate has nothing to do with him. Just as Yun Wanshu is about to fall, the very next second, despite his sharp tongue, Song's body moves first. Rushing forward to catch her, even rationalizing it away, she's still useful. Saving her is just expedient. Cradled in his arms, Yun Wanshu stares wide-eyed in shock and embarrassment. Their eyes meet and something feels off to Song. The look in Yun Wanshu's eyes doesn't quite match what he remembers. Yun Shu steps in, pats Song's shoulder and says lightly, "Well done. I'll think of a reward." Remembering the last reward, Song immediately declines. The more Yun Shu considers it, the stranger it seems. She orders Qian Yen to investigate thoroughly. Song watches her in confusion. His sister was in danger, yet Yun Shu reacted slower than anyone. This Yun Wanshu is suspicious as well. Inside the general's banquet hall, Yun Shu flicks her fan open and tilts Song Huanbei's chin up with it, smiling broadly. Everyone, allow me to introduce my newest pet. Song turns his head away in open disdain. I can play along for now, he thinks, but as the Northern Guardian Prince, I won't humiliate myself for her little show. The guests erupt in flattery. No wonder the general looks down on ordinary beauties. Song Huanbei is truly exceptional. Your taste is impeccable, General. Seeing his reluctance, Yun Shu pinches his cheek and forcibly pulls his lips into a smile, then hooks an arm around his shoulder and raises her cup, drinking freely with the crowd. At that moment, Minister Wei from the Ministry of Works suddenly stands, cutting Yun Shu off. General, you've had your fun for quite some time. Surely you're getting bored by now. I have a proposal. He claps his hands, and a line of seductive dancers enters the hall. I'm willing to trade these dancers for the man at your side. Wei had long heard about Song Huanbei from the Ninth Prince. Seeing him in person only fuels his desire. What a filthy old lecher. Yun Shu slowly sets her cup down and looks at Wei with a teasing smile. That's quite a deal you're offering. The Minister of Works openly proposes an exchange at the banquet, leering as he asks whether the general agrees. Realizing he's serious, Yun Shu's expression turns cold. Too bad that I don't discard what's mine so easily, and you dare covet my possession? Minister Wei's reputation is even worse than hers, known for cruelty and excess, with a heavy hand that's earned him infamy beyond Yun Shu's own. Still unwilling to give up, Wei smirks. How about this? I'll gift all the dancers to you, General. I only ask for one night of pleasure. He adds with a leering grin, surely you can part with him for that much. Yun Shu lowers her gaze in thought. This could be a perfect chance to test Song Huanbei. After all, the strange incidents in the residence lately might well be connected to him. She looks up and answers calmly, you do make a point. Song's face drains of color, cold sweat beading on his brow. General, you're really handing me over. Yun Shu cuts him off. By the laws of this realm, servants are ranked no higher than livestock. Watching his reaction, Yun Shu's interest sharpens. A faint smile tugs at her lips as she toys with him. Using a pet to entertain a guest, isn't that only natural? Song glares at her, resentment burning in his eyes, muttering that she's truly heartless. The prince's expression darkens. So be it, he thinks. Don't blame me when trouble comes your way. After the banquet, Song is escorted into Minister Wei's room. Yun Shu remains alone beneath the pavilion, lost in thought. Replaying the scene, a flicker of hesitation stirs. Song has been too obedient lately, making it harder for her to act without guilt. If he passes this test, she'll treat him better. Besides, she's never gotten along with Wei. His uninvited appearance reeks of ulterior motives. Inside the room, Wei strokes his beard, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. Hey, the beauty, our meeting was destiny. It turns out Minister Wei once overheard the Ninth Prince speaking with someone else, mentioning a breathtaking male favorite hidden in the general's residence. From that moment on, Wei's curiosity was piqued. What kind of beauty could possibly make Yun Shu lose her composure? Now, Song Huanbei lifts his cup, calm and composed. Honestly, even if you hadn't proposed the exchange, I would have found a way to come see you. He toasts him. Minister Wei beams, his grin unmistakably lewd. Seems we're on the same wavelength. No need for drinks, Wei says impatiently. Let's get to the real business. Song's performance is flawless. His tone is gentle, but something cold flickers beneath it. If you won't drink on your own, then I'll have to serve you personally. In the next instant, his left hand clamps around Wei's throat, while his right strikes a pressure point, stealing his voice. Song calmly lifts the cup and forces the wine down. If you like it so much, have a little more. Terror floods Wei's eyes, his body stiff with fear. Song now radiates the authority of the Northern Prince. Relax, I won't kill you tonight. I don't want suspicion. Once I leave this room, you can die then. Outside in the courtyard, Yun Shu paces back and forth, anxiety gnawing at her. Why isn't Song resisting? Why does it look like he's actually serving that old creep? There's no way he'd submit like this. She wrestles with herself, tempted to barge in. It's only been a short while, she tells herself. Wait a bit longer. He's my enemy anyway, why should I care? No matter what, he's still a worthy opponent. Letting him be humiliated by that sleazy old man. That alone makes Yun Shu's thoughts clash violently. She suddenly comes to a stop. Then bolts toward the room, telling herself over and over. It's not concern, she simply refuses to stoop to such filthy tactics. Inside, Song Huanbei hears the approaching footsteps. He expected Yun Shu to keep watch, but not this soon. His original plan was simple. Get Minister Wei drunk enough to pass out, survive the night, then have someone quietly deal with him later. But for now, Song has no intention of leaving the general's residence, which means Wei's death must not be traced back to him. His mind races, recalculating every move. With a loud bang, Yunshu slams the door open. Sensing she's about to enter, Song flicks his wrist and plunges the room into darkness. He hadn't planned on tearing off the mask so soon, but once Yunshu crosses that threshold, there's no turning back. At that very moment, the Shadow Guard leader, Liusu, slips in through the window without a sound. One glance from Song is enough. Liusu understands immediately. He hides behind the curtain and deliberately mimics Minister Wei's voice. Song locks his gaze on the doorway, thinking calmly, "Come on, Yuns Hu.Do your worst. I won't disappoint you." Every man under the Northern Prince is a weapon in his own right. Dagger in hand, Song is fully prepared for combat. Unexpectedly, Yunshu doesn't charge in. Instead, she calls out coldly from outside, "Song Huanbei. Come out, you're coming with me." Song freezes for a split second, then signals Liusu to lower his weapon. He picks up the dagger and deliberately draws a few shallow cuts across his own chest. From behind the screen, Yunshu's voice turns dark. "I've changed my mind." The next moment, she kicks the screen aside. Seizing the timing, Song pulls Yunshu into his arms, whispering softly into her ear, "General." Yunshu's gaze drops and she sees the bloodstains on his chest. Shock and something dangerously close to concern flash through her eyes. Why didn't he fight back? He's smarter than this. Fury surges as she roars, "Wei, you disgusting bastard." Behind the curtain, Liusu keeps up the act, imitating Minister Wei's voice. "Just a bit of bedroom fun. What's it to you? Don't go back on your word, Yunshu." Yunshu shoots a contemptuous glance through the curtain. "I do whatever I want. You don't get a say." With that, she grabs Song's hand and walks out without hesitation. Outside, she orders Qinyan to lock the door. Let Minister Wei get some proper rest. Song exhales inwardly. He's made it through this round, but Wei has to die. Early the next morning, Madame Wei is wailing outside the general's residence, pointing at the gates and screaming, "Yunshu, you heartless butcher. You killed my husband and now you won't even return his body." She shouts about filing an imperial complaint, drawing a crowd of onlookers. Inside the residence, Yunshu rubs her temples, utterly annoyed, muttering to Qinyan, "Of all the places that bastard could die, he had to die here. Even if I jumped into the Yellow River, I couldn't wash this off." Frowning, she asks, "What exactly happened? Was the body examined?" Qinyan reports honestly, "Last night when I went in, Minister Wei was furious and refused to speak. His face was flushed, clearly overexcited. I even arranged 2 dancers to attend him. This morning, he was foaming at the mouth, dead on the bed. The food in the room showed nothing abnormal, and there were no signs of poisoning on the body." Resting her chin on her hand, Yunshu says flatly, "Sounds like sudden death during activities." Qinyan adds, "But I found a footprint on the windowsill." Yunshu straightens instantly, slamming her palm on the table. "So someone went in." With her hands clasped behind her back, she stares toward the door, eyes narrowing. "Last night, I was too focused on Song Huanbei's injuries. Thinking back, he did seem to block my view on purpose." She lowers her voice. "Qinyan, do you think this is an enemy framing me, or someone secretly helping Song Huanbei?" Qinyan, ever simple-minded, raises his oversized cleaver. "If the general suspects him, why not drag Song Huanbei in and interrogate him?" Yunshu cuts him off immediately. "Enough. Don't be stupid." She gives a calm order. "Return the body to Madame Wei at once. Be arrogant about it. If she wants to file a complaint, let her. I have my own plan. Just do it." Outside Qiangmun Pavilion, Yunshu stands beside Song Huanbei, calmly directing the servants. "Move all his belongings, every single thing, into my chambers." Song looks at her, utterly confused. "General, what does this mean?" A proper interrogation would have yielded answers easily, yet Yunshu finds herself reluctant. Instead, she decides to keep him under her own watch, up close. With a teasing smile, she says, "I owe you for that night. Thought I'd spoil you a little. Starting today, you live with me." Song's expression freezes on the spot. After several rounds of verbal sparring, the Prince of the North had been convinced Yunshu was long past such tendencies, only to be brutally proven wrong. Not only does he fail to escape, he's forced to move into the general's private quarters. Yunshu grins at him. "Didn't see that coming, did you? Caught you completely off guard." Cold sweat beads on Song's forehead. Covering his mouth, he stammers, "General. This arrangement is truly unsettling. He avoids her gaze entirely. With so many beauties in the southern court, he adds weakly, perhaps the general should spread her favor around. Yun-shu lifts his chin with a single finger. Her voice is firm. Of all the waters in the world, I only drink from one ladle. Song turns his head away flustered. Wow. Thanks. Truly. Yun-shu plants her hands on her hips and laughs. Look at you, so thrilled your face is turning green. She turns and urges the servants on. Move faster. Left standing there, Song frowns inwardly. Was my judgment wrong? Does Yun-shu really have improper intentions toward me? Yun-shu suddenly looks back and gives him a wink. Relax. Tonight, there's something that'll make you even happier. A chill runs through Song Hwanbei. His bad feeling only grows. Night falls almost instantly, like a hard cut straight to after dark. High-level play indeed. The opening line is take your clothes off first. Yun-shu moves without hesitation, pouncing on him. Don't be shy. Come on, I'll help. Watching her eagerness, Song can't help doubting himself. Did I really misjudge her? He shoves her hand away and snaps, no. Yun-shu isn't bothered at all. She scoffs. I get it. When men say no, they mean yes. You're just playing hard to get. With that, she reaches for his collar. Panic sets in. Song clutches the blanket tightly. He knows he can't overpower her right now. Then suddenly Yun-shu stops. She pulls out a small jar of ointment. Dipping her finger into it, she gently spreads the medicine across his chest. Song freezes. Cheese. Just applying medicine? Yun-shu looks up at him with a teasing smile. Disappointed? It's just medicine. Song turns his face away, flustered. General. This isn't something to joke about. Yun-shu smiles smugly and keeps up the act. That way bastard was truly vile, hurting you like that. Dying of sudden collapse suits him just fine. Then she adds casually, good thing we found out in time. Before he died, he left a message. Song Hwanbei's heart skips. What did he say? He asks at once. Yun-shu pauses, flashing a mischievous grin. Take a guess. Song is left speechless. Again. Is she messing with him or already suspecting his involvement? Yun-shu puts the ointment away, tone cooling. The medicine's done. Don't get it wet for a few days. Song rises and pulls the curtain aside. A hint of disappointment in his voice. So the general summoned me just to toy with me. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Yun-shu grabs the hem of his sleeve. Who's toying with you? I keep my word. It's late. Time to sleep. She points to a cabinet. Get a blanket from there. In no time, Song has made a pallet on the floor. Yun-shu laughs. What, you've got a problem sleeping on the floor? Song replies flatly, I wouldn't dare. Yun-shu launches into a blunt rant. Know your place. You think you're sharing my bed. Besides, I'm not in the mood anyway. As the general commands, Song says, turning away. The knight's antics leave him utterly confused. Is she actually into men or not at all? Yun-shu turns onto her side, lost in thought. Lately, rumors have spread that her supposed fondness for men is just an act. The emperor heard them and grew more wary. Having Song Hwanbei share the room was a calculated move. A warning. And a display. I've given you the chance. She thinks that if you don't try anything tonight, what a waste. A night like this is priceless. A man and a woman alone. Yet the general makes the prince sleep on the floor. Both lie on their sides, minds racing. Sleep is impossible. Since Lady Wei accused her, Yun-shu has been punished to house arrest for a month. Letting Song move into her chamber is also a message to the throne. During her punishment, she does nothing but dally with a pet, useless at everything except war. Yun-shu sneaks glances at Song. Such a perfect opening. Why hasn't he tried to strike? A faint noise stirs behind her, tightening every nerve. She's certain he's about to make a move. But he only coughs, then turns over, again and again, keeping her on edge until nothing happens at all. All that anticipation for nothing. Yun-shu ends up wide-eyed with dark circles, irritated and afraid to fall asleep. At that moment, Song Hwanbei slowly opens his eyes. He rises and moves closer to Yun-shu. His hand is just about to close around her throat. Yun-shu reacts instantly, twisting his wrist and snapping, "What do you think you're doing?" Song simply rolls with it, clasping her hand instead. He pushes her back onto the bed, looming over her with undeniable confidence. The initiative is mine now, he thinks. Assassination can wait. With that dangerously handsome face, he murmurs, General Yun, nights like this are short. Let me take care of you. His hand slides toward her thigh. Yun-shu's face flushes bright red. The next second, she grabs a pillow and smacks him hard. Are you done yet? Some of us are trying to sleep. Get off me, stop lying on top of me. Outside, the soldiers overhear and whisper in awe. That pet is something else. Even the general, so fierce, sounds completely worn out. Yun Shu sits upright on the bed, hands on her hips, half embarrassed and half angry. Has Song Huanbei lost his mind? Song Huanbei is genuinely startled by how strong her reaction is that he plays innocent and asks, "It's a long night. General, don't you like it?" Yun Shu forces herself to stay composed, fixing him with a cold stare. "I'm the one in charge. You don't get to decide on your own." Song's gaze lingers despite himself. Right now, Yun Shu looks unexpectedly gentle. If not for that completely flat figure, he might have mistaken her for Yun Wanshu. Yun Shu snaps and kicks him straight off the bed. "Where do you think you're looking? Get down." She glares at him from the mattress, fuming. "Push me again and I'll toss you into the lake to cool off." Song Huanbei rubs his head, looking perfectly innocent. That split-second panic she showed earlier seals it for him. She has no interest in men at all. Song Huanbei is quietly thrilled. The next day, the ninth prince noticed the dark circles under Yun Wanshu's eyes and asked with concern, "Did you not sleep well last night?" Then, as if casually, he added, "I've heard things lately about you being rather scandalous with that male concubine." Yun Wanshu cast him a cool glance and replied softly that His Majesty had begun to doubt her. Left with no choice, she could only smear her own reputation to protect herself. Otherwise, the position the ninth prince desired would only drift farther and farther out of reach. The ninth prince clenched his fist, looking at Yun Wanshu with earnest concern. "I believe you," he said. "I end this world. You're the only one who's ever truly good to me." He warned her not to let anyone take advantage of her, or he would feel guilty himself. Yet while his words were gentle, his thoughts were cold. How to deal with Song Huanbei? Minister Wei couldn't even control a single male concubine. Useless. It seemed he would have to act personally. Seeing that the weather was pleasant, the ninth prince proposed a stroll through the garden, pretending it was merely for admiring the flowers. He even suggested inviting Song Huanbei to perform a piece on the zither, claiming it would add to the mood, though in truth he wanted to see for himself what kind of man Song Huanbei really was. Yun Wanshu looked at him, puzzled, and gently objected, saying it might not be appropriate. Deep down, she simply didn't want Song Huanbei to be humiliated. Tilting his head, the ninth prince tested her with a smile. "Wanshu, you're being awfully considerate of him. Don't tell me you've actually fallen for him?" Wanshu denied it at once. "How could I ever like a captive? You're overthinking it." The ninth prince smiled and took her hand. "Then I'm relieved." Meanwhile, Song Huanbei headed to the garden alone. He figured it was a perfect chance to see Yun Wanshu, and maybe earn himself a bit of goodwill while he was at it. Song Huanbei suddenly spotted Xiao Lu, the same maid who had messed with her before, chatting with another servant. She slipped behind a rockery to watch in secret. The servant was about to deliver the peach blossom pastries prepared by the ninth prince to the young lady. Xiao Lu pretended to be friendly and exchanged a few casual words with her. Then Xiao Lu acted as if a bee had flown past. She suddenly grabbed the servant and pulled her into a hug. The move startled the servant, leaving her completely flustered. Blushing furiously, the servant hurried away. In truth, Xiao Lu had taken advantage of the moment to sprinkle poison into the peach blossom pastries. Only after the servant was gone did Song Huanbei step out from behind the rocks. Xiao Lu ran straight into Song Huanbei. She deliberately bumped her shoulder against Song Huanbei and sneered, "A good dog doesn't block the road." After Xiao Lu left, Song Huanbei looked at the sedative powder in her hand and came up with a plan. She would later eat a piece of the pastry, pretend to be drugged, then expose the plot and pin the blame on Xiao Lu. Song Huanbei then arrived at the pavilion, first asking Yun Wanshu with concern about her health. The ninth prince fixed his gaze on Song Huanbei and teased, "So you really are a beauty. No wonder my uncle favors you. With a face like that, you'd be the top attraction in a male brothel." Song Huanbei didn't back down, replying with a smile, "Your Highness is too kind. Your looks aren't any worse than mine." The two exchanged barbed remarks back and forth, while Yun Wanshu stood awkwardly to the side. She quickly cut in, "Young Master Song, why don't you play a piece for us? High mountains and flowing water. Can you?" Song Huanbei sat down with a confident smile. "Of course. Even Phoenix seeking its mate is well within my ability." He lifted his gaze toward Yun Wanshu, his tone unmistakably flirtatious. "Miss Yun, would you like to hear it?" Song Huanbei really knew how to charm. Yun Wanshu was clearly tempted. Off to the side, the ninth prince snorted in disdain. "As if he deserves it." Sensing the odd tension in the air, Yun Wanshu sighed helplessly. Then let's go with high mountains and flowing water. The music flowed like moonlight, like running streams and cascading falls, brushing gently across the heart and drawing everyone into its spell. The melody was soft, almost tender. With her face half hidden like a peach blossom, Yun Wanshu's seductive plan quietly went back into motion. She smiled and praised him. It's truly beautiful. I never imagined young Master Song possessed such talent. The ninth prince was caught off guard, genuinely stunned. Watching Yun Wanshu and Song Huanbei exchange glances, a sharp bitterness rose in his chest. He remarked coolly, "It seems my uncle's favor toward you isn't without reason." The comment instantly froze the flirtatious atmosphere between Yun Wanshu and Song Huanbei. Song Huanbei swallowed his urge to retort and replied with measured courtesy, "I'm merely insignificant, but I hope you'll excuse me." Yun Wanshu smoothly changed the subject. "Young Master Song, why don't you try some of the peach blossom pastries Lanner had prepared by a famous Jiangnan chef?" Song Huanbei reached out thinking this is it, then abruptly stopped his hand. Song Huanbei suddenly recalled the assassin from last time. The eyes were identical to Xiao Lu's. If Xiao Lu was truly the assassin, then her approach to the servant delivering the pastries had to be deliberate. At that moment, Yun Wanshu picked up a piece of the peach blossom pastry and offered it to the ninth prince. Though he didn't care much for sweets, the ninth prince was curious about the flavor of something Wanshu liked and accepted it with a pleased smile. Yun Wanshu took one for herself as well. Song Huanbei's gaze flickered. In a sudden motion, he reached out and snatched the pastry from Yun Wanshu's hand. Without expression, he tossed it straight into the fish tank. "There's something wrong with this pastry," he said in a low voice. The next instant, the goldfish floated belly up. Wanshu stared at him in shock. "Young Master Song, how did you know it was poisoned?" Song Huanbei explained how he had run into Xiao Lu on his way over and witnessed her deliberately making contact with the servant delivering the pastries. Yun Wanshu was shaken. It really was her. What stunned her even more was that Song Huanbei hadn't taken advantage of such a perfect opportunity to kill her. The servant who delivered the pastries dropped to her knees, cold sweat pouring down as she nervously confirmed she had indeed encountered Xiao Lu, proving Song Huanbei's account true. The ninth prince fixed Song Huanbei with a suspicious look. "If you discovered this, why didn't you say anything sooner? Or was this all staged by you, to earn Wanshu's and the general's gratitude?" Song Huanbei instantly slipped into his award-winning actor mode, looking utterly innocent. "I hesitated too," he said. "But without solid proof, how could I casually accuse someone? Especially when she's connected to the consort." With just a few words, he shifted the spearhead toward the ninth prince. The prince shot back at once, "That's slander. If she serves my mother, why would she drag me down as well?" Song Huanbei smiled faintly. "The peach blossom pastries are hard evidence. Frankly, I even suspect this has something to do with your highness." Enraged, the ninth prince shoved Song Huanbei. "What nonsense are you spouting?" At that moment, a small vial slipped from the ninth prince's sleeve and fell to the ground. All three froze. Yun Wanshu's expression changed instantly. "Why are you carrying poison on you?" she demanded. The ninth prince was stunned himself, panic flashing across his face as he hurriedly tried to explain to Wanshu that this was a setup. His words grew more frantic by the second. Yun Wanshu pushed his hand away, her face unreadable. "This matter needs a thorough investigation. The consort is a benefactor to both of us as siblings. I hope there's been some misunderstanding." She then instructed the servants, "Have Qian Yan seize Zimo and interrogate him properly." Only then did Yun Wanshu realize she'd almost gone full Yun Shu for a moment. She quickly patched her own persona. "Right, inform my brother and have him decide." Song Huanbei caught the subtle shift at once. When the interrogation began, Song Huanbei was deliberately sent away by Yun Wanshu. Leaving the garden alone, he muttered to himself. Was she afraid he knew too much, so she pushed him aside? Song Huanbei recalled what he had done moments earlier, slipping the poison into the ninth prince's sleeve amid the chaos. An heir attempting to poison the family of a meritorious official was the kind of imperial scandal that could never be exposed to outsiders. In that sense, the secret was now sealed. A faint smile tugged at actor Song's lips. Yet doubts quickly followed. Yun Wanshu's instinctive show of authority had been oddly forceful. Even stranger. If the consort owed her current status to Yun Shu, why would she ever want Yun Wanshu dead? Under brutal interrogation, Xiao Lu confessed to poisoning the pastries but insisted the consort had nothing to do with it. He claimed resentment toward the general. feeling neglected, had driven him to seek revenge by targeting the young lady. Only then did the ninth prince finally relax and ask Wanshu how she wished to handle the matter. Yun Wanshu answered coolly, "Turn him over to the authorities. Let the law deal with it." The ninth prince suggested taking the prisoner himself, saying he would deliver him to the magistrate on the way. Xiao Lu secretly rejoiced, assuming the prince intended to protect him. But there was no chance Yun Wanshu would let him off so easily. She stepped closer, her expression filled with disgust. "You still think there's hope?" she said coldly. "Do you believe the consort will save you?" Yun Wanshu smiled faintly, every word cutting deep. "I am Yun Shu. That's why your assassination was doomed from the start. No one ever expected you to succeed. You were nothing more than a disposable pawn." Xiao lustered at Yun Wanshu in utter disbelief. The ninth prince finally lost his restraint and barked, "Guards, drag him away." At that moment Xiao Lu's fate was sealed. Neither the ninth prince nor the consort would ever allow this secret to be exposed. Wanshu had spoken those words to Xiao Lu on purpose, afraid the prince might show mercy and spare his life. The ninth prince grabbed Yun Wanshu's sleeve, pleading with her not to doubt him. He promised this matter would be handled properly. Yun Wanshu coldly shook his hand off. "You're not a child anymore. Don't cling to me like you did when you were young. Go back to the palace." The ninth prince lowered his head in disappointment. To him, Yun Wanshu mattered deeply, and now a crack of distrust had formed between them. With nowhere else to vent his rage, he turned it all on Xiao Lu, ordering every bone in his body broken before throwing him into a dry well. Then he had 100 venomous snakes dumped in after him. Xiao Lu collapsed at the bottom of the well, barely clinging to life. The ninth prince delivered the final blow without mercy. "When the consort sent you to do this, she never planned for you to survive. How naive." Yet all Xiao Lu wanted was to see the consort one last time. He had been a lifelong convict, doomed to live in the shadows, until the consort pulled him out of the darkness. To Xiao Lu, the consort was the only light he had ever known. From that day on, he willingly became a vicious, biting dog. Now broken and battered, his eyes dull, he forced out his final conviction. The consort would never abandon me. Inside the Chaoyang Palace, Consort Yun dabbed at her tears before the ninth prince, feigning sorrow as she claimed she never imagined Zimo could be so ruthless, lashing out simply because he felt neglected, even attempting to poison Wanshu. If something had truly happened, wouldn't it have implicated both mother and son? The ninth prince questioned the consort with open suspicion. "Wasn't this done on your orders, mother?" The consort was visibly shaken. She hurried to explain, "We're family. How could I ever harm Yun Shu?" Yet the ninth prince's face darkened. He clearly didn't believe her. Clenching his fist, he said coldly, "I hope there won't be a next time. If you send one person after her, I'll kill one person." Consort Yun was stunned. She slammed the table and snapped, "What kind of attitude is that? Have your wings grown so strong that you dare talk back to your own mother?" The ninth prince simply smiled. In an instant he shifted his tone. "I only wish to reach an understanding with you, mother. The throne and Wanshu both belong to me." With that, he turned and left without another glance, leaving the consort seething. Rage churned in her chest. The truth was out, and those two were trying to break free of her control. If that was the case, it was time to crush the ninth prince's ambitions once and for all. She promptly arranged a grand evening gathering held in the names of Yun Shu and Yun Wanshu. Noble sons and daughters were invited under the guise of tea and scenery, though in truth, it was a large-scale matchmaking affair. Yun Wanshu sat off to the side, clearly uninterested. That was when Yi Heru, the legitimate granddaughter of Elder Yi, took a seat beside her. Ever since being rejected by General Yun Shu, Yi Heru had been nursing a grudge. She seized the chance to throw subtle barbs at Yun Wanshu. The two traded veiled remarks, each line sharp beneath the surface. A wave of noble ladies instantly fell into fangirl mode, whispering excitedly, "Oh my god, who is that young master? That face, that build, he's ridiculously handsome." Drawn by the murmurs, Yun Wanshu and Yi Heru both rose to take a look. It turned out to be Song Huanbei passing by below. Song Huanbei looked up, his gaze locking with Yun Wanshu's. He shot her a deliberately suggestive look. Yun Wanshu's heart skipped a beat, heat rushing to her cheeks. Moments later, a maid approached Yun Wanshu with a folded note and whispered, "Miss, this was given to me by young Master Song for you." After reading it, Wanshu slipped the note into her sleeve. She then instructed the maid to escort the other young ladies to the garden to admire the flowers, before turning and leaving herself. Watching her go, Yi Heru sneered inwardly. Off to meet some secret lover. Her brother Yunshu was already shameless enough. His sister couldn't be any better. Just wait until I catch your weakness and ruin you. This female general disguised as a man had to constantly switch identities just to survive a single banquet without being exposed. Back in her room, Yun Wanshu combed her hair, her thoughts lingering on Song Hwanbei's letter. My kindness toward him before wasn't exactly pure, she admitted to herself. But he seems sincere now that he invited me to see the lanterns. Should I go? The next second she frowned. Why am I even hesitating? Don't tell me I'm actually moved. Yun Wanshu immediately shut those thoughts down. She changed into men's clothing, planning to show her face briefly to maintain appearances, then sent her stand-in Wanshu to handle things in the garden. After that, Yunshu opened a hidden passage from her room, leading straight to the general's quarters. When Yunshu was young, she had once suffered a severe fever. Many memories were burned away, so much so that she could barely recall who her parents were. Yet military strategy and Mahist mechanisms felt engraved into her very bones. As she walked through the hidden passage, she found herself wondering what Song Hwanbei was doing, and decided she might as well go check on him. Meanwhile, Liusu, the head of the Shadow Guards, was reporting to the prince. After taking this vital nourishing pill, Your Highness should recover about half of your strength. Unfortunately, this is the only one we've managed to find. Song Hwanbei accepted the pill and asked casually, what about the recent assassination attempts? Liusu replied that the trail ultimately led to two figures, the Prime Minister Wang and the Crown Prince. Stroking his chin, Song Hwanbei frowned. The Crown Prince? Do we have solid evidence? Not yet, Liusu answered, but there's something odd. This force appears to have ties to Consort Yun as well. Song Hwanbei's brow furrowed. The situation was far from simple. A mere consort, whose son had yet to become Crown Prince, already reaching her hands into Zhao's affairs. He couldn't see how he had ever crossed her. Just then Song Hwanbei sensed movement outside the room. Yunshu passed by and caught the sound as well. Without hesitation she pushed the door open. What are you doing? Song Hwanbei jumped to his feet, feigning surprise. Yunshu tested him offhandedly. I heard something. Who were you talking to just now? With a perfectly serious expression, actor Song replied, I was writing. The sound you heard, General, was probably that. He opened the window, revealing an adorable little cat. Seeing nothing suspicious, Yunshu casually picked up what Song Hwanbei had written and read it more closely. The night grows deeper, I read alone, tossing and turning, wondering where my thoughts of you wander. The bright moon, ahem, she froze midline. Bright moon, my foot. This wasn't poetry about the moon at all. It was a thinly veiled invitation to share a bed. Clutching the paper, her face burned red. Unbelievable. How could Song Hwanbei shamelessly write something this suggestive? Song Hwanbei suddenly stepped closer and whispered, I've been banished to a side room lately. Sleeping alone hasn't been easy. Yunshu's expression darkened as she huffed. She tossed the note back at him. Then she stormed off, leaving Song Hwanbei blinking in confusion. Impressive, he thought. She can even get jealous of herself. The more Yunshu thought about it, the angrier she got. He flirted openly with her in men's clothes, yet kept sending signals to her female persona as well. What a two-timer. After she left, Song Hwanbei stroked the cat on the windowsill, relieved. Thank heavens for this little thing. Otherwise I'd have had no explanation. Still, he narrowed his eyes, sensing something off. He had stationed Xiao Yuan outside Yunshu's door, yet there'd been no warning. Which meant she hadn't come through the front. A hidden passage. Following the path she'd taken, Song Hwanbei quietly gave chase. Following the trail, Song Hwanbei arrived at Yunshu's study and pushed the door open. He immediately began searching the room, even picking up a few ornaments to scoff at them under his breath. Terrible taste. As he scanned the space, a thought crossed his mind. What secrets was the general's residence hiding? His hand brushed against a white porcelain vase, yet it didn't budge at all. He paused, eyes narrowing. A mechanism? Reaching out, he twisted it slightly. With a faint click, a hidden door slowly slid open. Song Hwanbei's expression shifted. It was a Mahist mechanism. Such devices were long thought lost, mastered by only a handful. Yunshu had placed it in plain sight, confident no one could unlock it. A smug smile crept across his face. Too bad for her, I happen to be one of those few. He followed the hidden passage into another room and lifted the curtain aside. Picking up some cosmetic powder from the table, he inhaled lightly. The scent felt strangely familiar, as if he'd encountered it before. Suddenly, voices drifted in from outside. Song Huanbei slipped behind the curtain just in time, overhearing two maids chatting. The miss is really odd. She never lets anyone stay close when she bathes, and she always sends people away. His eyes widened. This was Yun Wanshu's private chamber. Pieces fell into place. The rooms of Yun Shu and Yun Wanshu were arranged back to back. He'd sensed something off before. Siblings shouldn't live this close, let alone be connected by a hidden passage. Something was definitely wrong. Beneath the moonlight and blossoms, a handsome man and a beautiful woman walked side by side. So perfectly matched it felt almost destined. Yun Wanshu broke the silence first. Since we had nothing urgent, a walk like this felt nice. Song Huanbei looked genuinely pleased she'd come. Gazing at her softly, he said, I always felt like you were avoiding me before. Wanshu deliberately looked away. That you're joking, young Master Song, that if I were avoiding you, why would I agree to meet? Inside she reminded herself, this was all supposed to be an act. The goal was within reach, yet she found herself hesitating. All because of this shameless man, she thought, flirting with her in two different identities. Stay steady. Just then a vendor's call cut through the moment. Candied hawthorn. Fresh candied hawthorn. Yun Wanshu's face lit up as she jogged over. Watching her, Song Huanbei smiled faintly. This young lady's personality is surprisingly charming. He stepped closer, lowering his voice into full flirt mode. The first time I saw you, you felt familiar, like we'd known each other in a past life. What a smooth line. Wanshu told herself to stay calm, yet her cheeks flushed as she looked at him in surprise. Really? Song Huanbei laughed. Ha, I'm just teasing. The truth is, I invited you out because I need a favor. Wanshu pressed a hand to her racing heart so he was playing with me. Aloud she smiled politely. You do love your jokes. What is it you need? With practiced sincerity, actor Song said, what you see between the general and me isn't the whole truth. That I'm merely a decoy. And I don't want to play that role anymore. He met her eyes. Could you put in a word for me? Wanshu was briefly taken aback. He'd noticed more than she expected, but still replied smoothly, I'll mention it to my brother. Song Huanbei looked at Yun Wanshu with open sincerity. All I want is a proper legitimate standing, to face you as myself. With that he handed her a small rabbit-shaped lantern. Yun Wanshu felt stunned, shy, and confused all at once. Does he really like me? She wondered. Then what about all the flirting with my male persona? For the first time she didn't know what to do. The prince finally moved back to the detached residence. Seeing Song Huanbei fall from favor, the men of the south courtyard, Jiao Yi and Bing, rushed over to mock him, laughing loudly and without restraint. Xiao Yuan couldn't take it anymore and dumped a basin of cold water over them. Song Huanbei stepped in and said calmly, they're just insignificant trash. Don't bother. That instantly set them off. Spit, spit, spit. What did you just say? Song Huanbei merely shot them a glance. It was like a tiger about to pounce. Terrified, the group scattered and fled. Turning back to Xiao Yuan, he said, remember, this is exactly the position I want. Don't stir trouble, but don't fear anyone either. Later, Song Huanbei wandered the courtyard, admiring the flowers, though his thoughts were clearly elsewhere. He plucked a peach blossom and brought it to his nose, thinking how life had changed. Ever since Miss Yun helped free him from the role of a kept man, he'd gained far more freedom, even if he still couldn't leave at will. The Yun siblings trusted him deeply. Using that trust, he'd eliminated a few obstacles and quietly planted several pawns of his own. Everything was proceeding smoothly. Except for one thing. There was still no news of Wanwan. And no matter what, he refused to believe she had met a tragic end. Song Huanbei stood alone, weighed down by grief. He had been searching all along for Wanwan, the girl he lost in childhood. Just then, a woman's voice sounded behind him. Young Master Song, I never imagined your situation would be this difficult. He turned in surprise and asked who she was. Yi Heru introduced herself and casually mentioned that she held him in high regard. Song Huanbei grew even more puzzled by her intentions. With feigned concern, Yi Heru offered to help him leave the general's residence, promising freedom and a wide-open future if he agreed. Song Huanbei looked at her in surprise. Why would you go so far for me? Yi Heru claimed she had seen how close he and Wanshu were at the gathering, and as Wanshu's close friend, she simply wanted to help. No one comes without an agenda, Song Huanbei thought. Her eagerness reeked of ulterior motives, so he declined, saying the general had treated him well and he had no desire to leave. Yi Heru's expression darkened. Oh, then that's truly a shame. Song Huanbei frowned, not understanding what she meant. In an instant, her demeanor turned vicious. That I didn't want it to come to this, but you forced my hand. The maid behind her suddenly stepped forward and created a compromising scene, throwing everything into chaos. Back at the general's residence, Yunshu was stunned. What? Song Huanbei harassed Yi Heru's maid. That's impossible. Has he lost his mind? Qianyan scratched his head in disbelief. Apparently so. Several people from the south courtyard say they saw it themselves. Crossing one leg over the other, Yunshu remained calm and asked, and what does Yi Heru have to say? Qianyan reported that Yi Heru wanted to take Song Huanbei away and deal with him privately. Yunshu was slightly taken aback by such a strange request. She quickly composed herself and thought it through. Harassing a maid didn't sound like something Song Huanbei would do. That if he was being framed, what exactly would Yi Heru gain from it? At that moment, the ever-reliable Qianyan interrupted. That I knew you wouldn't agree, General, so I already refused on your behalf. However, he continued, Yi Heru then demanded a duel to the death between Song Huanbei and her personal guard. Hearing it would be a martial duel, Yunshu actually relaxed. Against a mere guard, even with only 30% of his strength left, Song Huanbei should manage. Just then, fierce winds howled outside as the sky darkened. Gazing out the window, Yunshu felt an inexplicable sense of unease. In the blink of an eye, the day of the duel arrived. Yi Heru spoke to Yun Wanshu in an affected tone. I really didn't want things to turn out this way. Don't be too upset. He looks respectable enough, but who knew he was a beast? She added with a smile. Why don't you two exchange a few words? Once the duel is over, there might not be another chance. Yun Wanshu replied coldly, you plan to play dirty. Yi Heru covered her mouth, grinning. Blades have no eyes. Who can say for sure? I'm only acting out of kindness. Yun Wanshu turned away dismissively and looked at Song Huanbei, thinking that Yi Heru was easy enough to deal with after so many encounters. But what about young Master Song? What exactly was the relationship between him and the real Miss Yun? Only then did it become clear. This Yun Wanshu was merely a stand-in. Nearby, Song Huanbei was comforting a tearful Xiao Yuan. Looking up, he spotted Yun Wanshu. He walked over and said earnestly, Miss Yun, please believe me. I've been framed. The stand-in Yun Wanshu hesitated, then replied coolly, that I know to be careful out there. Song Huanbei felt that sense of dissonance again. The stand-in Yun Wanshu couldn't bring herself to meet his gaze and quickly turned away. At that moment, Yun Shu finally arrived and Wanshu hurried over to stand beside her. Yun Shu looked at Song Huanbei. With a duel to the death about to begin, he was far calmer than expected. She then turned to Miss Yi. You may begin. Mistakes demand a price. No matter the outcome, I expect no complaints. Yi Heru immediately echoed, the general is wise. On the platform, Song Huanbei lowered his eyes to his sword, deep in thought. Below the stage, Yun Shu and Yi Heru each harbored their own calculations. Yun Shu sneered inwardly. Yi Heru truly thought Song Huanbei was powerless. She was about to pay for that mistake. Yi Heru clapped her hands lightly. Come out. In a flash, a man lunged forward, blade slicing toward Song Huanbei as he coldly declared, 3 moves. That's all I need to kill you. The strike was terrifyingly fast. Caught off guard, Song Huanbei still managed to block in time. That if he went all out he could win, but doing so would expose the fact that his strength had returned. Yun Shu's expression darkened the moment she recognized the man. That he was a notorious killer ranked high in the martial underworld. Extremely dangerous. For a split second, both sides were calculating their next move. Yun Shu lowered her gaze, deep in thought. By now it was almost certain. Song Huanbei had been framed for a sheltered young lady to hire a killer of this caliber. Everything had clearly been planned in advance. Scenes flashed through Yun Shu's mind. Moments when Song Huanbei had saved her before. Was she really going to stand by and watch him die? Song Huanbei was struggling as well. That if this dragged on, he would truly lose his life. But if he revealed his strength, what excuse could he possibly use? In the next instant, he chose to gamble. His aura surged as he drew his sword and charged forward. The moment blade met blade, Song Huanbei was sent flying, crashing to the ground. The assassin froze. That burst of pressure just now had made him think he was about to lose. So why was Song Huanbei the one lying there instead? Yun Shu clenched her teeth and faced Yi Heru. That's enough. This ends here. Song Huanbei has already been punished. Yi Heru clearly wasn't satisfied. General, a promise once given can't be taken back. Yun Shu's gaze turned razor sharp. Are you teaching me how to do my job? She turned and ordered Qianyan take him for treatment. On the ground, The actor Song allowed a faint smile to appear that he had won his bet. The physician reported to Yun Shu that Song Huanbei's pulse was unstable. Signs of internal injury that he would need strict rest and must not fight for at least 2 months. Yun Shu stood quietly watching the injured man the moment he was in danger. Her emotions had surged beyond words. She realized she couldn't remain indifferent. Song slowly opened his eyes. "General, I'm not dead." Yun Shu immediately stepped forward to support him. Song Huanbei looked at her with genuine gratitude. "Thank you, General, for saving my life." Yun Shu braced her hands on the bed, leaning in close as she spoke softly, "As long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you." Song Huanbei looked at her, clearly caught off guard. A shy smile followed as he lowered his gaze. "I didn't expect the General to value me so highly." Only then did Yun Shu realize how intimate her words had sounded, and a flicker of embarrassment crossed her face. She quickly explained, "What I mean is, anyone under the General's residence is under my protection." She turned her head away awkwardly. Yun Shu sensed that whenever they were alone, the atmosphere kept slipping out of control. She reminded herself to stay calm. The actor Song looked at her with gentle affection. "I understand." Then he added quietly, "There's something I lied about. That day by the window, it wasn't a cat that it was someone sent by Zhao to retrieve me and take me away." Yun Shu was visibly shocked. "Why tell me this?" she asked. Song's performance was flawless as he spoke without hesitation. "I've lost my memory that I can't tell truth from lies anymore. All I want now is a peaceful life, and since you've saved me more than once, I want to try trusting you." Yun Shu nodded. "That makes sense. Those people may pose a threat. The assassination attempt during your return to the country was already extremely dangerous." Her expression grew serious. "Did they tell you how to contact them?" Song lowered his eyes. "They didn't." Yun Shu let out a quiet sigh. That might be for the best. If he'd said too much, it would have raised suspicion. Now that there's a lead, she could follow it step by step. Yun Shu told Song Huanbei to rest properly and turned to leave. Suddenly, Song reached out and grabbed her. He pulled her straight into his arms. Yun Shu froze. "What are you doing?" Leaning close to her ear, Song whispered, "I seem to recognize the scent on you." "General, do you and Miss Yun use the same fragrance?" Yun Shu frowned, alarms going off in her head. Does this man have the nose of a bloodhound? Has he noticed something? She immediately pulled her hand free and said calmly, "It's a balm Miss Yun gave me. Helps soften calluses. Even though I'm a soldier, I know how to take care of myself. I'm not some brute that if you're interested I can give you a box." Song choked on his words and quickly waved it off. "No need." At that moment, a cold voice cut in. The 9th prince stood at the doorway, glaring at them. "What are you two doing? Why are you standing so close?" Seeing him, the actor Song tightened his hold on Yun Shu on purpose. Yun Shu struggled free at once. "It's not what you think. A misunderstanding, really." Song still refused to let go. The 9th prince snapped, furious. "How dare you touch my uncle?" Yun Shu pushed against Song with all her strength. After a chaotic back and forth, Song Huanbei ended up tied securely to the bed. Yun Shu regained her composure and turned to ask Loner, "Why are you here?" The 9th prince explained in a low voice, "That assassin is one of my retainers. Miss Yi used my name to bring him into the general's residence. That I rushed over the moment I found out that I didn't cause you any trouble, did I?" Yun Shu immediately understood how Miss Yi had managed to get close to an assassin. With such a vicious nature, whether she was truly fit to become a princess was something that would need further discussion with the consort. Acting as Loner's uncle, Yun Shu gave him a firm lecture. Such oversights could never happen again, or he'd end up being used without even realizing it. The 9th prince nodded repeatedly. Yun Shu then turned back and told Song Huanbei to rest properly. Saying she had something to discuss, she led the 9th prince outside. Back in her room, Yun Shu practiced calligraphy when Qian Yan came to report. "General, the matter you ordered has results. The agents from Zhao did infiltrate the general's residence. I followed the trail and found their hideout." Yun Shu looked up sharply. It turned out to be people from the Thousand Mechanism Pavilion. She set her brush down and said calmly, "So the Thousand Mechanism Pavilion we've been chasing for so long has finally surfaced. This way of all ways." At that moment, Yun Shu became fully convinced that Song Huanbei truly had lost his memory. Otherwise, he would never have handed over a lead like the Thousand Mechanism Pavilion so easily. She ordered Qian Yan to hold position for now, waiting to gather more clues before striking in one sweep. After a pause, Yun Shu asked thoughtfully, "Now that our objective has been met, What do you think we should do about Song Huanbei? Qian Yan scratched his head, clearly understanding her meaning. If the general likes him, keep him by your side. After all, in the eyes of the world, the Prince of the Northern Guard is already dead. Yun Shu's eyes lit up. And what if he regains his memory one day? Qian Yan once again pulled out that long and used cleaver. What he thinks doesn't matter. Yun Shu burst into laughter, giving a thumbs up. Well said. The two exchanged a smug look and let out matching chuckles. Yun Shu waved her hand, signaling Qian Yan to withdraw. Under the moonlight and among the flowers, Yun Shu stood alone in the pavilion, lost in thought. Keeping him would be easy, but how could she place him somewhere proper and legitimate? Or, she could use Yun Wanshu's identity and take him as a husband. The thought made Yun Shu cover her face, flustered, complicated, but not impossible. Suddenly, a soft jingling sound reached her ears. She turned and saw the male concubine Chu, dressed in bright crimson gauze, striking exaggerated poses in front of her. General Chu offers you a dance. Yun Shu was speechless. You've been in the general's residence for years and never stood out. Why do you suddenly look this painful to watch? Something felt off. Lately, the concubines had been unusually enthusiastic. Chu, clearly embarrassed by her reaction, turned his head away awkwardly. He recalled overhearing Song Huanbei teaching A, B, and C behind a tree. The general supposedly liked people who could surprise her. Like sneaking into her bed late at night and wrapping her tightly in a heated embrace. A, B, and C had listened with fascination. Song had even pulled out a so-called suicide manual. No, a flirting guide, and claimed the ninth prince shared the same taste. Be bold, he said, and wealth and status will be yours. Naturally, Chu didn't dare tell the truth that he didn't want Song stealing the general's favor, so he merely shot her a flirtatious glance and said, it was just a sudden inspiration. A chill crept up Yun Shu's spine as she smiled faintly. Oh, is that so? Then I'll have to reward you properly. Early the next morning, Chu stumbled out, legs shaking. The maids whispered in awe. The general is ruthless. He can barely walk. Chu suffered in silence. After kneeling all night, he cursed how impossible the general was and decided he'd try his luck with the ninth prince instead. Meanwhile, Yun Wanshu sat drinking tea with Song Huanbei. Smiling, she said, that concubine confessed everything. Don't tease my brother anymore. He looks fierce, but he's soft-hearted, she added, a bit smug. This time he even threw his reputation aside just to save you. Resting his chin in his hand, Song replied casually, I was only joking with the general. People complain all the time. What's wrong with giving me a chance? Yun Wanshu huffed. You never came clean about being a concubine. I was just testing you. You knew that. Song shot her a flirtatious wink. It hit Wanshu right in the heart. Softened, she decided not to press the matter. She then took out a vital nourishing pill and handed it to Song. My brother asked me to give this to you. It should help restore some of your strength, so what happened last time won't happen again. Song looked mildly surprised and stood to bow. The general has shown me great kindness that I have no way to repay my thanks to both the general and Miss Yun. Inside though, he was thrilled. Yun Shu, I'm sure you'll lose badly. It was time for the sisters' tea gathering again. The consort Yun pressed Yun Wanshu coldly. The Zhao delegation is already on its way. You say Song Huanbei isn't under your control. Do you really think I'd believe that? Yun Wanshu set her teacup down. Calm and composed, she said, the battlefield was pure chaos. If he survived, that was sheer luck. What does it have to do with me? We've never gotten along. If he really fell into my hands, do you think he'd still be alive? In truth, not only would he have lived, Wanshu had even considered keeping him. What she hadn't expected was that the Zhao court somehow learned Song Huanbei was still alive and immediately dispatched a delegation, clearly determined to retrieve him at any cost. What now? The consort pressed on. You're still denying it. Someone has already recognized him. Wanshu's pupils tightened. Their gazes locked, the air turning heavy and still. Wanshu countered sharply, her eyes steady. The Prince of the Northern Guard's appearance is scarcely known. On what basis can you confirm it's him? And how can you be sure that person isn't a spy? Sister, don't let yourself be used. Losing the argument, the consort grew increasingly agitated and finally snapped, just hand him over. The prince is dangerous. Better to kill the wrong man than let him go. Wanshu was no pushover. She rose to her feet at once. Then have the one who claims to recognize him come to the general's residence and confront me. I'd like to see how he twists the truth in front of my eyes. With that, she took her leave. She turned and walked away without hesitation. The consort smashed her teacup to the ground, bracing herself against the table, her anger unmistakable. A deep sense of unease crept into Consort Yun's heart. She knew all too well. Once the Northern King revealed himself, her secrets would be exposed. Song Huanbei had to die. Liu Su found another rejuvenation pill for Song Huanbei and happily handed it to him. With this, His Highness should be able to recover 70 to 80% of his strength. Song Huanbei replied calmly, even with a hint of pride, 10%. Yunshu gave me one as well. Liu Su froze for a few seconds. Then he burst out laughing. Seriously, that's basically suicide. Huh. Song Huanbei lowered his gaze, secretly pleased. All those days of restraint hadn't been in vain. Yunshu finally trusted him completely. She would never imagine just how foolish a move she had made. He casually asked about the situation back in Zhao. Liu Su reported that the delegation included people loyal to His Highness, enough to guarantee his safety. Once the envoys arrived, he could withdraw smoothly, after eliminating Yunshu. In high spirits, Song Huanbei rested his hand on the zither and said lightly, "Good. Make the preparations. This operation must not fail." Liu Su bowed his head. "I will not fail you, Your Highness." At that moment, a string snapped beneath Song Huanbei's fingers. Once Yunshu was dead, Shi Kingdom would inevitably fall into chaos. Sensing something amiss, Liu Su asked cautiously, "Your Highness, is something wrong?" Song Huanbei's expression darkened as he waved him off. "It's nothing. You may go." Yet when the words about killing Yunshu were spoken, the image that surfaced in his mind was Yun Wanshu in tears, and for the first time he hesitated. Last time, with the peach blossom pastry incident, he had the perfect chance to watch Shenlong die, yet he gave it up just to save Wanshu. What was wrong with him? Today, the general's residence was hosting a banquet. Song Huanbei had a maid pass along a message, saying he had prepared a gift for Wanshu. He then led Yun Wanshu to a separate room. Though slightly puzzled, she trusted him and stepped inside. Seeing how carefully the room was arranged, she didn't know what Song Huanbei was planning, yet her heart couldn't help but flutter. That was when she noticed something unexpected. A bed had been placed inside the room. Before she could react, the maid stepped out and with a loud bang, locked the door from the outside. Wanshu walked over and pushed against the door. She sighed softly. "Why is it locked? What is Song Huanbei trying to do?" Turning her head, she suddenly saw a bamboo tube blowing a stream of sedative smoke into the room. In that instant, Wanshu understood. There was no surprise at all. Someone was trying to harm her. But they had clearly forgotten one thing. Yun Wanshu was Yunshu herself. There was no way she would be trapped so easily. Their plan was doomed to fail. Lifting her skirt, Yun Wanshu raised her leg and kicked out, coldly reminding herself she was no fragile young lady. Outside the room, the maid was still smugly convinced the ambush was about to succeed, waiting for Song Huanbei to find the young lady affected by the incense, then lure the banquet guests over. She snickered to herself, even comforting her conscience by claiming she was helping unite Miss Wanshu and young Master Song. Suddenly, there was a sharp whoosh as a wooden plank flew through the air. Amid the rising dust, Yun Wanshu's figure emerged. The maid stumbled back in terror, screaming, "Impossible! Wasn't the young lady supposed to be weak and sickly?" Wanshu demanded angrily, "Who told you to do this?" The maid trembled and whispered, It was young Master Song." A cold glint flashed in Yunshu's eyes as she pressed again, "I'll give you one more chance." "Who really ordered you?" Completely overwhelmed by the terrifying pressure, the maid could hardly believe the person in front of her was Miss Yun Wanshu, not General Yunshu. With a loud thud, she dropped to her knees and confessed through tears that Yi Heru had paid her 50 taels to carry it out. Hearing Yi Heru's name, Yun Wanshu's expression instantly eased. At least it wasn't him. But the thought chilled her again. Why Yi Heru had gone further and further each time. If this scheme had succeeded, the whole world would think she was shameless, entangled with her brother's man, truly vicious. At that moment, Song Huanbei rushed in anxiously, his face full of concern as he asked, "Wanshu, are you all right? I heard a huge commotion on my way here. What happened?" Wanshu shot Song Huanbei a quick glance. In the next second, she switched straight into her award-winning actress mode. Song Huanbei, someone tried to hurt me." The sudden move into his arms caught Song Huanbei completely off guard. Seeing how fragile and pitiful Wanshu looked, his heart softened. She must have been terrified. He instinctively pulled her into an embrace and said firmly, "Don't be afraid that I'm here." "What exactly happened?" "I got a message from a maid saying you asked me to come." Lowering her head, Wanshu thought he probably hadn't seen anything. She kept up the act, murmuring, "I received a message too, saying you were the one who asked me to come." Wanshu said quietly that the maid had been bribed by Yi Haru and had prepared aphrodisiac incense in advance, trying to frame them. Luckily, Qianyan arrived in time, otherwise the consequences would have been disastrous. She added that Qianyan had already gone after the man in black. Seeing how wronged Wanshu looked, Song Huanbei clenched his fist in anger, itching to tear Yi Haru apart himself. At that moment, the maid being restrained by the guards cried out desperately, "Miss, please spare me." Like a fierce little kitten, Wanshu hid behind Song Huanbei and said coldly, "I already spared you once. Last time, because of your negligence, the 9th prince and I nearly lost our lives." The maid sobbed hysterically, insisting she truly needed the 50 taels. Wanshu remained unmoved. Needing money was no excuse for doing evil. She could have come to her directly. The maid wailed that after the Zimo incident she had been docked half a year's wages. Otherwise she could have paid off her father's gambling debts and her mother wouldn't have been beaten to death. Seeing Wanshu show no mercy, the maid screamed in hatred, "I hate you, you're such a terrifying two-faced." Before she could finish, a guard covered her mouth and dragged her away. Song Huanbei frowned in confusion. Two-faced. Wanshu's heart skipped a beat. She forced herself to look hurt and replied calmly, "I never thought she saw me that way." Song Huanbei didn't press further and changed the subject. "The pitiful often have something hateful about them. We're not taking this lying down. How do you plan to deal with Yi Haru?" With a look that said she had already thought it through, Wanshu looked at Song Huanbei and said that Yi Haru thought she wouldn't dare make it public. She leaned in and whispered her plan into Song Huanbei's ear. After hearing it, Song Huanbei stroked his chin and smiled faintly. "That sounds perfect." The two exchanged a knowing smile. Wanshu suddenly stumbled, nearly losing her balance. Luckily, Song Huanbei reached out in time and caught her. He asked in a low voice, concern evident, "You don't look well. Did you inhale the incense? Even if you held your breath, you must have taken in some." Wanshu pressed a hand to her temple and gently pushed him away. "I'm not feeling great, I'll head back first." Song Huanbei immediately offered to walk her back, but she declined. Only then did it dawn on him that escorting her would be inappropriate. Slightly embarrassed, he reminded her to see a physician and said he would handle the rest. Wanshu glanced back at him with a meaningful look before turning away. Song Huanbei stood there, vaguely unsettled. Lately, odd thoughts had been surfacing from time to time, though they seemed too absurd to take seriously. He sighed softly, convincing himself he was overthinking things. On his way back, he ran into the ever-cheerful Qianyan, who asked with a grin, "Where are you headed, young Master Song?" Song Huanbei replied politely and casually asked, "So, was the culprit caught?" Qianyan froze, utterly confused. "Huh? What culprit? I just came back from the training grounds." Song Huanbei immediately sensed something was off. Qianyan clearly knew nothing about it. "I see that you've worked hard. I'll be going then. Farewell." Qianyan was left standing there, completely baffled. What was that about? Was he using some kind of code? Meanwhile, Song Huanbei curved his lips slightly. This calculating prince always paid back grudges, and sabotaging a rival along the way was simply a bonus. Inside the banquet hall, the ladies noticed that Wanshu had been gone for quite a while. They gathered to chat, showering her with praise while casually throwing jabs at Yi Haru. Yi Haru hid off to the side, listening with disdain, rolling her eyes so hard they nearly turned upward. A dark smile crept onto her face as she secretly celebrated what she believed to be a successful plan. Once Wanshu's reputation was ruined and she was forced to marry a male consort, what could she possibly compete with? Growing impatient at the lack of news, Yi Haru ordered her maid to go check on the situation. At that moment, a shadow suddenly appeared behind her. With a sharp strike, Yi Haru was knocked unconscious. When she came to, she found herself locked alone in a room, overwhelmed by heat and discomfort, muttering weakly, "It's so hot, it hurts. Someone help me." Outside the room, Liusu was speaking with Song Huanbei. Liusu felt that locking Yi Haru up for just one night was far too lenient. She deserved at least a bit more punishment, especially seeing how miserable she looked. Song Huanbei teased, "Why don't you take care of it yourself?" Liusu instantly covered his face in embarrassment. "No way. I'm still pure and untouched." After a moment of thought, Song Huanbei said calmly, "Wanshu is soft-hearted. A lesson is enough." Liusu continued to stir the pot, adding fuel to the fire. "But your highness, this really isn't like you. They've plotted right under your nose." Song Huanbei flashed a mischievous grin. "That's why I'm planning to give her another gift. She might even end up thanking me afterward. Meanwhile, ninth Prince Shenlong arrived at the general's residence. He sat alone, lost in dark contemplation. Recently, the consort had been busy selecting a bride for him and even pushing Wan Shu into matchmaking. He wanted to speak with Wan Shu again. As long as she agreed to marry him, even in name only, that would be enough. But the moment he thought of how Wan Shu cared about Song Huanbei, the ninth prince clenched his fist in anger. That troublemaker had to be dealt with, quickly. Just then, a Chu entered draped in red silk. "Your Highness, I've checked everything." The ninth prince glanced at him, then instantly turned his head away. My eyes. This is unbearable, dressed so indecently, must be from the South Court. A Chu approached with a cup of tea laced with something extra, gazing at the ninth prince with affection, dreaming of seizing this chance to rise in status. The ninth prince casually picked up a cup and drank it down. A Chu froze in confusion. No reaction at all. Didn't Song Huanbei say His Highness liked men? The ninth prince looked at A Chu with open disgust. "Why are you still here? Are you trying to seduce Wan Shu? I really should wipe out everyone from the South Court." Sensing danger, A Chu turned and bolted. Just then a servant rushed in. He leaned in and whispered urgently, "Something's happened with the young lady." The ninth prince's expression hardened. Clearly alarmed, he immediately ordered the servant to lead the way. Watching the prince hurry off, the servant secretly rejoiced. The woman had inhaled the aphrodisiac incense and was burning with desire, suffering terribly. Karma at its finest. Ye Heru had meant to frame Wan Shu, only to end up like this herself. The ninth prince kicked the door open and shouted, "Wan Shu." There was no response, only tightly drawn bed curtains. He ordered the servants to stay outside and forbade anyone from entering. After a brief pause, he added, "Send for physician De." Despite his feelings for Wan Shu, the ninth prince was still a man of principle and would never take advantage of her this way. But the servant behind him sneered and whispered, "Your Highness, you are the cure she needs." The ninth prince immediately sensed something was wrong. Turning around, he realized the door had already been locked. At that moment, Yi Heru stepped out from behind the curtains, her mind clouded. She hugged the ninth prince from behind and pleaded softly, "Your Highness, I feel awful. Please help me." Seeing her clearly, the ninth prince finally understood. He had been set up. There was no Wan Shu here, only a delusional fool. Over at Luiyue courtyard, Yun Shu emerged from a cold bath, feeling much more refreshed. She sat down to rest, puzzled. Someone had just reported that the ninth prince had arrived, so why hadn't he shown up? Yun Shu lifted the cup of tea A Chu had specially prepared for the ninth prince. At the same time, A Chu cautiously stepped out from outside the door. Their eyes met, and A Chu instantly noticed the drugged tea in Yun Shu's hand. His soul nearly left his body. This was bad. Already irritated, Yun Shu grew even more annoyed at the sight of such an eyesore. "Who let you in here? Dressed like that, you'll ruin my reputation." A Chu forced a smile and edged closer. "The tea's gone cold. I was just about to clear it away." Yun Shu raised the cup again. "Perfect. I wanted something cold." A Chu panicked and tried to stop her. That cup was used by the ninth prince. Yun Shu shot him an impatient look. "Aren't there two cups?" With that, she drained it in a few gulps. A Chu was internally losing it. She actually drank it. Setting the cup down, Yun Shu asked, "You said the ninth prince came. Where is he?" A Chu hurriedly replied that someone had just delivered urgent news and the prince had rushed off. Yun Shu frowned, sensing something was off. If Lanner had truly left for business, he wouldn't have gone without leaving a word. Yun Shu ordered A Chu to leave at once. A Chu didn't hesitate. He turned around and bolted again. Just then Song Huanbei rushed in, blurting out, "General, something's wrong." His expression was grave. "Miss Yun asked me to handle something, but it went sideways." Yun Shu pressed immediately. "What happened?" Bracing himself against the table, Song Huanbei leaned in and whispered the whole sequence of events to her. When he finished, he said bitterly, and then the ninth prince barged in. "General, what should we do now?" Yun Shu stood there, expressionless, while her mind screamed internally, "No way. No way, this can't be happening." Yi Heru had tried to play dirty and ruin Yun Wanshu's reputation, only to end up ruining herself instead. After learning what happened, Yun Shu hurried over to check the situation. On the way, she overheard several departing ladies whispering, "After slandering Wan Shu earlier, who was the shameless one now? A so-called scholarly family, nothing more than that. If it were them, they might as well smash their heads into a wall." Yun Shu had only meant to teach Yi Heru a lesson, yet somehow Lanner ended up getting dragged into it. How could the timing be this cruelly precise? At that moment, a sudden wave of heat surged through Yun Shu's body. Her heartbeat sped up, her thoughts spiraling out of control. She frowned in confusion. Had the effects of the drug really not worn off yet? She needed to finish dealing with this fast. Inside the room, Yi Haru was sobbing uncontrollably, crying that after something like this, she had no face left to show the world, demanding that the ninth prince take responsibility. Yun Shu turned sharply to the maid and demanded what exactly happened here. The maid was terrified, cold sweat pouring down her face as she recalled being abducted by a stranger, forced to follow instructions, with the promise that Yi Haru might reward her afterward. Gritting her teeth, the maid finally spilled everything. She said that something had happened to the young lady, and in her panic she could only send someone to summon the ninth prince. After that she had other noble ladies come looking, and that was how the young lady was accidentally discovered. Yun Shu listened and felt the explanation sounded reasonable enough, yet something still felt off. Of all people, why call on her? Was Yi Haru doing this on purpose? She had once wanted to sabotage this engagement, but now it seemed she had no choice but to accept it. Yun Shu let out a sigh, believing she had dragged Loner into this. After a brief moment of thought, she was about to say, in that case, then we can only... The ninth prince suddenly cut her off. Wait. Where is that guard? Bring him out to answer. This matter isn't that simple. The moment he said that, everyone froze in surprise. Trembling, the maid explained that everything had been so chaotic she could no longer remember what the man looked like. Yi Haru, thinking the prince was suspecting her of deliberately setting this up, immediately broke down in tears again. Would I really be that shameless? I might as well just die. Listening to everyone talking at once, Yun Shu suddenly found it unbearably noisy. The heat inside her body kept rising, her thoughts in chaos. She forced herself to endure it and said coldly, enough. Stop talking. Miss Yi, I will discuss this matter with the consort and give you an explanation. Even if there is to be an imperial marriage decree, His Majesty must decide. The moment she heard that, Yi Haru immediately stopped crying. With the situation temporarily settled, Yun Shu felt even worse. She could barely suppress it with her inner energy anymore and needed to leave at once. The general, disguised as a man, had clearly been drugged. All she wanted was a cold bath to calm herself. Her face flushed, she quickly headed back to her quarters. Song Huanbei noticed something was wrong with Yun Shu. Her condition looked strikingly similar to Wan Shu's earlier reaction. He followed her in secret all the way to the bathhouse, sensing something off about her identity, and began wondering how he might get inside to confirm his suspicions. Just then Lu Su suddenly appeared after finishing his business, startling Song Huanbei badly. Lowering his voice, Lu Su said, Xinlan's side has been trying to win over the Yi family. What happened today, didn't it help them a great deal? Song Huanbei let out a smug chuckle. Making things difficult for a romantic rival was its own kind of joy. Lu Su looked at the strange prince and muttered, wow, this is what being blinded by lust looks like. In the next instant, Song Huanbei's expression turned calm again. None of that matters now, he said, that I've discovered a secret and I'm about to confirm it. If it's true, Yun Shu won't be a threat anymore. He then instructed Lu Su to draw the guards away from the area. Inside the room, Yun Shu soaked in the bath, finally suppressing the effects of the drug somewhat. She hadn't expected it to be this potent. Suddenly she thought of Xinlan. Her attitude toward him earlier had been too harsh. Today he was probably the one who felt the worst. He must have misunderstood everything. Tomorrow she would definitely explain it properly. All at once shouting erupted outside. Fire! There's a fire! Yun Shu immediately got up to get dressed. But the moment she left the cold water, the heat surged back through her body. Just then someone knocked on the door. General, there's a fire outside. This place isn't safe. Yun Shu froze. It was Song Huanbei's voice. She had already sent him away earlier and Cheongyue Pavilion was far from here. Why was he suddenly here? An uneasy feeling rose in her chest as she reached for her general's uniform. Then she abruptly tossed it aside. Forget it, she muttered. This will have to do. When Song Huanbei saw Yun Wanshu step out, he froze. Miss Yun, he asked in disbelief. I just saw the general come this way. Yun Wanshu hesitated, unable to answer right away. The two of them locked eyes. In the brief silence, Song Huanbei's thoughts churned. Could it really be true? Staring at Yun Wanshu fresh from the bath, he was almost convinced his absurd suspicion had been right. He lifted his gaze coldly and said, so how should I address you? General, or Miss Yun? Seeing her turn her head aside, clearly at a loss for words, only reinforced his conclusion. Just then Yunshu's voice came from behind. Put out the fire already. This is ridiculous, can't even take a bath in peace. Shock flashed across Song Huanbei's face. Yunshu was actually outside, which meant the person in front of him really was Miss Yun. He had been mistaken. Yun Wanshu secretly relaxed, a hint of triumph flickering in her eyes. Thankfully she'd prepared for this. She put on an innocent expression and asked, "What did you mean just now? I didn't quite understand." Flustered, Song Huanbei quickly replied, "Nothing. Just a misunderstanding." He hurriedly changed the subject. Let's get out of here first.